Getting a new gun is exciting, but each spray gun is different in the way it is set up. Most people struggle with finding their preferred settings to get the gun dialed in, but it doesn't have to be hard. Today, we're going to cover everything you need to know. A couple months ago, David and I were looking to acquire some new paint guns. We looked at many different manufacturers and we ultimately landed on the new Lumaiii Exodus guns. The problem is we had to decide, should we run with the OP setup or the HVLP setup? After thinking about it for a minute, we decided to run with the OP setups. We've been using them every day. We love the way that they spray and we're super happy with our choices. In fact, we like them so much, we are dying to know how the HVLPs spray. So we went out and got the same exact guns, but in their HVLP counterparts. There's only 3 major adjustments on most paint guns. The problem is, if you don't adjust the gun correctly, there's a long list of negative effects that you can have if the gun is not dialed in correctly. Obviously, the first thing you do when you get a new gun is you have to unbox it. After I unbox the gun, I like to disassemble the gun just to become familiar with all the parts and pieces, especially if this is a new gun to me. I like to inspect the gun really thoroughly, and then I like to clean it out with a little bit of thinner, just in the rare event there could be any kind of metal shavings or any kind of oils in the gun. This is obviously the main body, the fluid tip, the air cap, the fluid needle spring, and the fluid needle control knob. Luma also includes a free regulator with all of their gun packages that reads in bars and PSI. It does not come with any adapters or cup. If you want to buy a cup, you can get that separately. If you want to buy a cupless adapter, here's a chart to help you pick out which adapter will work best for your gun. After it's all cleaned and I've wiped the body down real well, I like to lube up the fluid tip needle, and I also like to lube the trigger assembly before I put the gun back together. I like to put a little bit of Teflon on my gun body before I install my regulator, and I also like to use a little bit of Teflon before I install my high flow fitting. You don't have to do this, but they are prone to leak if you don't. Now that we got the gun all built up, we're moments away from actually doing a spray out and testing the gun. But before we do that, let's make sure that our fan, which is the top one here, is all the way counterclockwise or left. So the top one is going to be your fan. We're going to adjust it later, but before I adjust it, I want to make sure it's all the way left. The next one below the fan is the fluid tip. What I want to do is back the fluid needle out. I want to hold the trigger down and I want to tighten it up till it hits. I can feel it actually hit the back side of the trigger. This is what we call full fluid, full fan. If I'm going to adjust it, like you'll hear guys go, well, I do a half a turn in or a full turn in on my fan or my needle, it's always going to be from that full fan, full needle setting. So now that we have those two set, the only thing that you got to make sure, and it should come like this from factory, is this bottom valve is fully open, because that could actually cut off our air. We're using a regulator that was supplied by Luma, and we're gonna make our adjustments here. So make sure that this guy is fully open before we actually do a spray test. Me personally, I've got 4 of these guns. I have the HVLPs in a 1.3 and a 1.5, and I have the OPs in a 1.3 and 1.5, and I like that. Different guns for different situations. Let's say that you bought a 1.3 and you wish you would have bought a 1.5, or You want to buy 2 OP guns, but you just can't afford it. Well, the great thing is you can just buy 1 gun. Let's say you buy a 1.3, then you go out and buy this inexpensive fluid tip and needle, and you can exchange it, and that way you can turn your 1.3 into a 1.5 or your 1.5 into a 1.3, and this kit works on the OP guns as well as the HVLPs. So this is a way to save money and to try out different setups without having a big investment into them. For the gun junkies like myself that don't mind buying multiple guns, you don't have to buy 4 of these to get the entire collection. You could buy 2 of these and 1 of these, and through the combo, you could have all 4 guns. What am I talking about? Go buy an OP and a 1.3, buy an HVLP and a 1.3, and then buy 1 of these kits and a 1.5, and by exchanging the needle from either gun, you'll have all 4 combinations, so that could save you some money too. The last thing I want to do is adjust the air pressure, the PSI or the bar at the regulator. I want to do the fan and the needle first and the regulator last. The reason being is if I change the fan, it's going to change the pressure in the gun. So you always want to do regulator last. The needle I typically do first, and it doesn't really matter, but I like having the full needle. So I run the needle in till it hits the back of the trigger, and that's where I leave it. For you guys that you think that the gun is too violent or too much fluid, you can experiment with a half a turn in or a full turn in, and it's going to drastically cut down the amount of fluid coming out of that gun. Most pros don't do it that way, but you can try it if the gun is too violent for you. The fan pattern is something completely different. With this gun, I don't like having a full open fan pattern. I typically like to play with a 1 full turn in to 1.5 turn in, and I like to do these tests to see if my fan pattern is normal or if it's split. If you've got the fan pattern too small, if your PSI is too high, a lot of times it'll split in the middle, or if your PSI is too low, it gets very grainy. So we like to do spray tests on the gun to see if the gun is actually operating where it should be. If you have your air horns going horizontal, you'll have a vertical spray. If you spin your air horns vertical, you'll have a horizontal spray. And some guys do like to do the horizontal spray test and do it till it runs to see if it's consistent. Most guys like to do it that way, but get a piece of cardboard or a piece of paper and make sure that your gun is spraying correctly at the proper adjustments that you picked. Now that I got my gun set up correctly, it's time to go spray these parts. You're probably wondering what you should set your pressure at on your gun, which is not a very easy answer. You can always go to Luma's website and check out this chart, and this will tell you their recommendations for the bar or PSI setting for each gun. But to make it easier on you, I'm going to tell you that the pressures that David and I like. For the 1.3s, I don't care if it's the OP or the HVLP, if we're using them for base coat, I like around 22 PSI. The 1.5s, again, I don't care if it's the OP or the HVLP, if we're spraying clear and sealer out of them, we like the 28 PSI mark. Now, I've been experimenting with the 1.3 and the OP. I like it at 22 on base, like I said, but if I was gonna use that for a sealer and clear gun, I would bump that back up to that 28 PSI. I think it sprays really well at those settings. The age-old question is, should you go OP or HVLP? This is a very personal and opinionated topic. I'll give you my 2 cents on it. I'm not a huge fan of HVLP, which stands for high volume, low pressure. There are some advantages to it. If I had to choose one over the other, I would be an OP person. What I like about an OP is that they're faster, especially for clear and sealer and single stages. But in the HVLP's defense is HVLP does a better job at atomizing metallics, candies, and pearls. So if I could have both, I'd probably use the OP for my clear coat and my sealer, and then I would use my HVLP for my base coats, especially my non-solid colors. I know today's video was mainly on the Lumaiii Exodus guns and how to set them up properly. But we use a lot of other stuff from Lumaiii, like the jacket and the light and the cabinet and the hose and the hanger. And we really like these products and we use them on a day-to-day basis. If you want more information on the products that we didn't cover, check out the links in the description below for more info. Watching technical videos can be boring, I get it, but knowing how to operate and set up your equipment is imperative if you want to make money or save money. For my professionals out there, what do I like about the Exodus lineup? They're a third of the price or half of the price is some of the big name brands out there, and they spray just as well. Here's an advantage of them though, they're way lighter. So I really do like that about them. For my do-it-yourselfers, they're an affordable gun that sprays like a professional grade gun, but here's one part that not a lot of do-it-yourselfers think about. These guns can operate at a very low PSI, meaning it's going to consume less air from your air compressor and create less overspray. So if you're painting in a garage, it's going to create less overspray and it's going to tax your air compressor less than some of the older technology out there. So hopefully you found some good information in this video from David and Chevy and myself. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys like and subscribe to Refinished Media. Until the next video.